Hello everyone, this is John Blackstone. Since I started this channel, I've been doing programs about music and some of my favorite artists, and I get a lot of comments on these videos that have made me think more deeply about music and why I became a musician and what inspires me to celebrate and honor the music that I love so much. And I want to address some things that people say in comments about their favorite music and their opinions about these things. So I grew up in a time when my brother, who was 5 years older, was playing the Beatles constantly. And my dad was playing Frank Sinatra, Stan Getz, all these amazing jazz players. I grew up in a home filled with incredible legendary music. But my first musical love was Elton John, and I discovered him when I was 11 years old. But then when I became a teenager, I really latched onto the Beatles, discovered how brilliant they were, and my friends and I were just nuts for the Beatles. My grandfather, on the Blackstone side, was a professional musician. In fact, he supported his family through the Depression by playing music, and he eventually started a business called Blackstone Music in Seattle. It was the first retail instrument store in Seattle. But it was more than a store. Half of the complex was a retail sales floor, and the other side of it was actually a teaching studio. Blackstone Music was kind of an institution in Seattle. My grandpa sold Jimi Hendrix his first guitars. He sold guitars to the Girls in Heart. Because my grandfather was a musician, my dad and uncle were both professional musicians. My dad was a saxophonist who played in the University of Washington, played with Quincy Jones back in the day when they were both in school. But as a result of music running so thick in the Blackstone family, when any of the Blackstone kids turned 5 years of age, we were taken down to Grandpa's music store and asked, "What do you want to play?" It wasn't, "Do you want to play?" It was, "What do you want to play?" When my parents took me down there, I pointed to a cool Fender electric guitar hanging on the wall in my grandpa's store, and my grandpa gave me that guitar. Then he proceeded to teach me for the next 5 years how to play guitar. So I've been playing guitar since I was 5. I didn't really like it. I played until I was about 10 years old, and then I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And finally, my dad let me stop taking lessons. But then like 2 or 3 years later, I discovered the Beatles, and my friends Bruce and Scott and I, we became fanatical about the Beatles, and we started our first band. I had already been playing guitar since I was 5, so I had a head start.
Yeah, the Midnight Special, the host of the Midnight Special, and the new band out.
Hey. Ouch. Thank you. Okay.
But you came and sat next to me. How can I explain to make you see?
Took it totally serious, and we played for years. We actually played up until the mid-'80s. Later on in the mid-'80s, joined a band called the Britons, which was doing an authentic tribute to the music of the 60s and early 70s. And part of playing that music was learning note for note every tiny little intricate detail of all those famous recordings. And that was so important for me as a musician.
I can't get no satisfaction. I can't get no satisfaction. 'Cause I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried. I can't get no, I can't get no. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. And the chorus goes the same. And was a man that I know in the last war. If I had to do, I would do the Bible.
5 years performing with the Britons, and all that time I was a songwriter. I'd started writing songs from the time I was 16, and I decided I wanted to really go for it in the music industry. I moved to Nashville.
Sexy singing, what have you done? You made a fool of everyone. You made a fool of everyone. Sexy singing, to know when I cry out that you are near. I don't care how long it takes. I'm here and I can wait. I need revival.
I worked with Nigel Olsson and Dee Murray from the legendary Elton John band.
You say you're sinking, but you're already sunk. You're still drinking, but you're already drunk.
Worked with some incredible songwriters and learned the art of songwriting back in a time when Nashville writers were still writing cool music. I became a producer while I was in Nashville, started producing demos for some of the labels in Nashville. Moved back to Seattle and have worked as a recording artist and a producer and a writer ever since. So that just a little bit of context to tell you where I'm coming from as I approach this subject of music. In one of my videos, I made a claim that a certain artist or a certain band was the best band of the 1970s. And I just want to explain kind of the way that I look at music and how I judge music. Number one is musical skill, just the ability to play. The ability to sing and write. Number two is versatility, the ability to play different styles of music, different genres, depending on whatever the songwriter has presented. Three is really important, originality, someone who is able to invent and be artistically creative in the recording studio and live, someone who can be inspired in the moment and create legendary pieces of music.
Goodbye, Norma Jean. Though I never knew you at all, you had the grace to hold yourself while those around you crawled. They crawled out of the woodwork and they whispered into your brain. They set you on the treadmill and they made you change your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in. And I would have liked to know you, but I was just a kid. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did.
Something that's very unique to certain bands is that not only can they play different genres of music, like Elton John or the Beatles are great examples of artists that could play all kinds of different music. There was literally no limitation to what they could do. But they also created a genre that is literally their own genre, their own sound. Now, the Beatles have a million of them. They have the early Beatles sound, which people try to copy all the time. They have the middle Revolver, Rubber Soul sound. Then they have the psychedelic sound. Then they have the later sound, the White Album, the Abbey Road kind of sound, which millions of bands try to copy. Elton John, another example, a guy that could literally play any kind of genre, but then had a very specific genre that was his own, and that was created by the Elton John band. I'm thinking of songs like Benny and the Jets, songs like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Any of the songs off of the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album are examples of this, of how the Elton John band had their own genre. Pink Floyd is another great example. Now, as someone who has worked professionally in the music industry over 40 years, I have always been able to find an abundance of excellent musicians who are technically skilled and can perform in the studio and on stage and on cruise ships in Vegas or whatever.
I'm in control, my worries they're few, 'cause I got love like I never knew. I got a new attitude, baby.
Sorry, but it's almost impossible to find musicians who are creative artists who can really invent and make great artistic statements within their music and within their playing.
2, 3, 4.
I've always placed the highest value on creativity because that's much harder to find amongst musicians. As a band member and as a producer, I've played with about 1,000 different musicians in my lifetime. And yet, when I'm making an album, there's only a handful of guys that I go to. They are the guys that come through with the ideas, the original, cool, inventive ideas. But with all of these bands, it's one thing to be able to create art in the studio, but none of them would be what they are without the songs. And this is so important. Songwriting is what makes for longevity. Great songs will live forever.
I don't know how I got to write those songs.
What do you mean you don't know how?
Well, those early songs were like almost magically written. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, a handmade blade, a child's balloon.
Eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand you knew too soon. There's no sense in trying.
Try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that, and it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. You know, it's a different kind of a penetrating magic.
Since I was a teenager, people have accused me of being stuck in the past. I mean, I was coming of age in the early 1980s when everyone was listening to the stuff that was on MTV. When the 80s came along, the quality of popular music was so awful. My friends and I didn't like that stuff at all. We actually used to make fun of it. We were rooted in the creative artistry of the late 60s and the early 70s.
Something inside is telling me that I've got your secret. Are you still listening? Fear is the light and laughter the key to your heart.
Not quite.
Yes, and I love you. I am yours, you are mine, you are what you are. You make it hard.
And so you can imagine how I feel about music today. To me, it's strange that modern music is even called music. I know that it meets the criteria technically, but what we're really hearing is more a representation of machines and computer software than it is actual human beings. Lately, we've all been hearing these examples of music created by AI. And when I listen to them, I just think sounds exactly like what I've been hearing over the past 20 years. It's just all just formula, lacking creativity, lacking heart, lacking soul. You know when you hear those things on YouTube where it's obviously an AI voice that's doing a narration? That's how I feel about modern music. It's fake. It doesn't sound human. There's no humanity in it, or very little. On all those amazing records that people love, the classics, the band was performing together, and the recording engineers, their job was to capture a performance, to capture the magic that happens when these musicians play together. That magic is in the grooves of those records. You cannot fabricate that.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, will you turn up this vocal mic, Jimmy?
How's Bobby?
Where's our stuff?
Bobby's all right.
I think the whole track could be brought down. Maybe.
Okay.
I know we really tried. Together we had love inside. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So now the time has come for both of us to live on the run. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And knowing that you would have wanted it this way, I do believe I'm feeling stronger every day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Modern producers essentially are trying to create the illusion of a performance when it's nothing like a performance. If you put on a record from Pink Floyd, the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Elton, Bowie, those records scream humanity and scream artistic integrity. Record producers and engineers have become obsessed with perfection. It's like, when was rock and roll ever about perfection? It never has been. That's not why that music is so great. Human beings are not perfect, and there's something strangely unsettling about music that's confined to a grid, music that's altered and tweaked and fine-tuned to perfection. When you think about it, it's actually really bizarre. It seems to me that modern producers and artists are sold on the idea of stripping all the humanity out of their music. Even the rock stuff, even the kind of more organic stuff, has gone through a process of being perfected, manipulated, fixed. If a snare drum is like the slightest little bit off of the exact mark on the grid, it gets shifted over. It just strips everything that's human out of the performances. I don't even know why they bother to bring in musicians in Nashville. Nashville used to be this place where all the greatest musicians in the world would go. And you know that when you made a record in Nashville, you had these killer musicians. Now, even in Nashville, the stuff that's coming out is the same thing. They have guys sitting at computers fixing and fine-tuning everything. Why even bring in the musicians? Just use samples. Most of pop music today is not performed by human beings. It's just assembled on a computer. It's using samples of drums and samples of guitars, and the only element remaining is just the vocal. And even that, the singer will come in and lay down 30 versions of the song, and then some guy will go and edit this word together with this word to complete an entire phrase, and then fine-tune every tiny little detail. How did we let this happen? When did the human race become obsessed with perfection instead of artistic integrity and magic? On a technical side, I believe that the beginning of the end was when the use of a click track became the standard in recording studios. There's a great quote from George Martin, who produced the Beatles. Someone asked him, "Did you use a click track?" And George said, "We didn't need a click track. We had Ringo."
That's something I like about what you're drumming, because it's got heart, it's got soul.
Sure.
I once worked with a contemporary group where the drummer, who shall we name this, used to work out his drum patterns in advance.
Uh-huh.
And he, not only that, but he also worked them on his computer with a Linn drum machine, so that he could reproduce virtual drums that was exactly what he was going to do.
Sure.
Worse still, he would put on headphones and listen to that while he was playing.
Yeah.
And it was so mechanical. I've said to him, "I'm going to take your headphones away from you." He said, "Oh, please don't do that." Please. And he couldn't play without them.
Yeah.
I actually looked at the side of his face to see if there were hinges. You know?
Sure.
If you listen to all of the most classic, legendary records of the past and use a metronome to see if they're staying on a straight count, they're not, because they weren't using click tracks. They were playing together, and they were allowing the emotion and the vibe and feeling in the room to elevate tempo sometimes, pull back tempo sometimes. That's gone from modern music. There are a lot of producers that would consider that unacceptable. The human factor is unacceptable. Or vocals that showed strain or other human characteristics. Oh my gosh, now they're all ruined by auto-tuning. Auto-tuning in many cases simply covers for singers who can't really make the performance, or for producers who have become impatient. And I think, why would people want that? And I don't believe people really do want it. I believe that time will show that most of the music produced over the past 30 years, certainly a vast majority of it, will be forgotten, while the incredible music of the early 20th century leading up to about 1979 is going to be remembered for centuries to come. I'm convinced of that.
Always dancing down the street with your sway blue eyes. Every new boy that you meet, he doesn't know the real surprise. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. Ooh, she'll make you feel. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. I kinda like the way she dips. Well, she's my best friend's girl. She's my best friend's girl. But she used to be mine.
And the reason why that older music never sounds dated is because of that. It's so human, it's so real, and there's so much heart and soul and magic in it. You listen to stuff even from the 80s and it sounds so dated. And it's because that's when technology started coming in and taking the place of real, authentic human performances. And I'm not saying that I don't enjoy some of this stuff that comes out. I do. The Spice Girls being a great example. I really enjoyed some of those tracks. I really liked what those producers were doing on those records. But within 10 years, I'm completely bored with that stuff. There's stuff that I buy even today that I know 10 years from now, I'll have no interest in it. It has no longevity. Casey Musgraves released an album 3 or 4 years ago that I really love, but I already hear how that album, the sounds, the samples, and the way that it's recorded is going to sound dated. Now, here's something that'll really blow your mind. One of my favorite albums of the past 20 years is an album called Has Been by William Shatner. Now, before you shut this off, listen to what I'm saying. This album was produced by Ben Folds, and it was recorded in Nashville. All the tracks were recorded live. It's one of the most unique, interesting, compelling, and human records I have heard in the past 20 years. It's not a joke William Shatner records. It's a very human, poetic, and interesting album. It features my old Nashville friends Fleming and John. I've heard some stories about the recording of this Shatner album, I encourage you to check it out. It's such a cool album, mainly because it's just so musical and so authentic and so real. Now in modern music, everyone has to look like a model, and these people work so hard to look edgy and cool and relevant. The fabricated image. These people have image consultants and stylists everywhere they go. How un-rock and roll can you get? It's like it came out of some clothing boutique on Sunset Boulevard. Think about guys like Keith Richards and Jimmy Page and Jagger and Bowie, how they all just had such a natural, cool style that was so original and so authentic to themselves.
You make a grown man cry. You make a grown man cry. You make a grown man cry. Spit out the fire, the gasoline. I want smooth ride and a main
Keith Richards always looks like he rolled out of bed and walked into the photo shoot. The Beatles had a calculated look in the early years, but when they broke free of that, they started looking so cool, and their style of dress changed culture. In the past, cool was a natural extension of personality. Now it's something that's fabricated.
This whole thing that's happened to me, you see, this whole success thing, it hasn't yet really compromised the position that I took a long time ago, to be true to myself, to be the person that was on the inside of me, is to not bullshit myself and not bullshit anybody else. I mean, to be real. You know what I mean?
Oh, honey, like you, the only man I ever wanted and I ever needed. Oh, honey, didn't I give you nearly everything I ever had again? I tried to do it. Each time I tell myself that I think I've had enough work. I'm gonna show you, baby, that a woman can be tough. Won't you keep on, Well, I used to pull your pigtail, been short, turn the nose. But baby, you've been growing, baby, it's been showing from your head down to your toes. Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me once or twice? Say it's very nice and then you run. Oh yeah. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister does. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister does. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister does. Little sister.
The odd thing is that every generation that comes up continues to discover all this cool old music, and they look at these old iconic artists and they admire them and see how cool they are, because they are cool. Now people have trainers showing them how to look cool, who are so focused on trying to look cool as opposed to just being cool. If people would just stop supporting mechanized music and prefabricated image, it would go a long way to open the doors to real, authentic music again.
Well, yeah, you know what? You're a very smart kid, ain't you?
Smart enough to know that you're not a famous singer.
Oh, well, I bet I am. I sold more albums than Michael Jackson and the Beatles in upper New Jersey.
Well, I never heard of you. When I grow up, I'm gonna be really famous.
Yeah, well, I bet you will be. In fact, I wrote a song about it, like the here it go. Little smart ass gonna be famous. Young bitch gonna end up on the cotton mill. Thank you very much.
Some people will argue it's too late. It's never too late. Look at the recent #1 single recorded by a guy in his backyard. Why is that record breaking sales numbers? It's not just because of the social commentary, it's because it's so human.
Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul.
People are just so desperate to restore some element of humanity back in our life that we've somehow lost. As with a lot of things in art now, we prioritize what can make the most money and not necessarily what can resonate with the most people or what's the most genuine and authentic. And I think music in general has really lost a connection with people because it's become too commercialized.
The major record labels continue to have a stranglehold on what's being driven into the public subconscious by pumping it into grocery stores and shopping malls. Do us a favor and start searching for real creative talents. They're all over the place. They're releasing music independently without any hope of really being heard among the billions of people competing for attention on YouTube. How about hiring some real music fans to be A&R reps for your record labels? The kind of guys that used to go out searching the clubs for great talent. People like David Geffen, he would invest in an artist and keep working with them and keep supporting them, knowing that something great was going to come of them. Instead of looking for the next Adriana Grande or Dua Lipa, start looking for people who are originals, people who have real inspiration and real creative ability, and invest in those people, invest in their talent. All the record labels are looking for the next Vogue model, so some producer can make them look like they're talented and then pump it out to an audience that will buy the records today and throw them in the garbage can 5 years from now.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you. Why do stars fall down from the sky every time you walk by? Just like me, they long to be close to you. The day that you were born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkled moon dust in your hair and golden starlight in your eyes of blue. That is why all the girls in town follow you all around. Just like me, they long to be close to you. Just like me, they long to be close to you.
Am I just a guy romanticizing about the past? Maybe. But I've watched generation after generation fill stadiums at McCartney concerts and Stones concerts. Just like I once attended a Sinatra concert with my mom and dad. I didn't understand Sinatra when I walked in, but I sure did when I walked out. Frank Sinatra is now one of my favorite recording artists.
When I was 21, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for city girls who lived up the stair with all that perfumed hair. and it came undone when I was 21. When I was 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for blue-blooded girls of independent means. We'd ride in limousines, their chauffeurs would drive. When I was 35.
I know I'm not alone. When the Beatles Get Back movie came out, I heard all these musicians and people that work in the music industry saying, yeah, we got to get back to basics. We got to start making records like they were made. And then they turn around and go right back to their computers and do the same thing they've been doing. Somebody has to break out of this. Somebody has to start changing things. There are guys like Chris Stapleton, who I admire greatly because he's really doing some legit music. And there are others, but man, they are few and far in between. I'm calling out modern artists. Stop allowing producers to tweak and artificially manipulate everything. If you want your music to be celebrated centuries from now, then be rebels. Break out of this grotesque technological nightmare of artificial and boring perfection, and let's be human beings again. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me express my views, my admittedly very strong views about modern music. I have some great videos coming up, so stay tuned. Please subscribe. Please like. It really helps when you click that like button. Take care. Until next time, this is John Blackstone.
And you're my brother, you are older than me. Do you still feel the pain of the scars that for you your eyes have died? You see more than I. You're a star in the face of the sky. Daniel's traveling tonight on a plane. I can see the red tail lights hitting the speed. Oh, I can see Daniel waving goodbye. Oh, it looks like Daniel must be the clouds in my eyes. Oh God, it looks like Daniel must be the clouds in my eyes. Hey, brother, Daniel, thank you.